So flashback to the night of August 8th. I had arrived at the theater and was attending the opening night of Dora and the Lost City of Gold. I was mostly doing it as a joke, but it was definitely less funny considering I was going by myself. So I find my seat, I sit down, and the movie begins. There I am, watching two little kids swing through the forest as the Dora theme song plays. The kids in front of me are singing along, and I realize that I'm completely surrounded by little children and their moms, and the f***ing Dora theme song is playing. I think I can definitely say that this was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. So yeah, I saw the live-action Dora the Explorer movie opening night, and boy, was that an experience. Now, I'm gonna be honest, it didn't suck. It certainly wasn't great, or even necessarily good, but it really wasn't terrible. Realistically speaking, the film is aimed at children, and I think for that demographic, it's a perfectly swell movie. Now, that's not to say there isn't anything for older members of the audience to enjoy as well, because that's incorrect.
Delicioso! Can you say delicioso?
She'll grow out of it.
Some of the meta humor in this film is some of the funniest I've ever seen. It reminds me of that old college humor skit mocking the concept of a live-action Dora movie, which is
ironic.
These moments in the film produced genuine laughs for me. That said, this only makes up a solid half of the humor in the film. Unfortunately, the other half is poop humor. It wasn't even upper-class toilet humor, it was just full-on repetitive jokes about shit.
Excuse me.
I ate chili con carne.
Each of these jokes killed me a bit inside, and I honestly hate how most children's films contain so much of this type of humor, because it's basically teaching kids that this shit is funny when it f***ing isn't. Now we have these kids growing up thinking farts are comedy gold and it's all Dora's fault. Now that said, there is one poop joke in the film that did provide me with the slightest bit of amusement. Essentially, this chick here has to take a shit, and Dora helps encourage her by singing a whole song about it. It's a very uncomfortable and cringy sequence, but those just kind of factor in and make it slightly funny. But that's the only shit joke I could actually f***ing tolerate in this film! Oh, and speaking of this girl, her character was f***ing pointless. And so is this guy. These two could basically be completely erased from the film and it wouldn't change anything. Their inclusion doesn't even make sense considering that the film is using the Indiana Jones formula pretty intensely. And it's common knowledge that the Indiana Jones formula works best with only 2, maybe 3 people in a group. There are just too many characters here to keep focus on at once, and the film even gets rid of these 2 characters for a good 20 minutes because of how much they were getting in the way. In terms of Dora herself, I think the actress did a solid job portraying the character's enthusiasm, and I thought the writing of the character was pretty good as well. It did lack subtlety, but considering the demographic, I'm fine with that. The biggest surprise for me was how much I actually liked Diego. If you've seen the trailer, you know that they basically turned Diego into some emotionless teenager who looks like this.
Cousin Diego, you're so skinny and tall.
You are way more energetic than I remember.
I recall being disgusted by his appearance in the trailer, but I'll be honest, he was one of my favorite parts of the movie. He was seriously a very believable teenager, and I completely bought his performance. I also think the choice to turn Diego into this bland, expressionless motherfucker helped with the theme of the city changing you as a person and Dora wanting to stay herself. I'd also like to briefly say that while the CGI is definitely cheap and unrealistic, it works! The cartoonish designs match perfectly with the tone of the movie, and Swiper's sequences are able to be animated like they're right out of Looney Tunes, which I loved. I also really liked the set design. It again feels a lot like Indiana Jones Light, which I really have no issue with. These sets just give off such a fun, adventurous feeling, and I love them. Now, in regards to the story of the film, it's just as cliche as one would expect. The twist villain is obvious throughout, and the ending is basically just stolen beat from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. As we could all tell from the trailer, the stupid high school shit is the worst part of the film, but I think the filmmakers knew that and purposely rushed through it to get to the Indiana Jonesy stuff. It only lasts like 15 minutes, which is just short enough for me to tolerate it. There was one really confusing plot element though, and that was Swiper. The film opens up with a classic Dora and Diego adventure, and we see them doing the whole shtick with, the map, backpack, Swiper, and, they tell him, oh, Swiper, no swiping. But then it's revealed that they were just imagining that the map and backpack don't actually talk, and Swiper doesn't actually exist. But then, after Dora and her friends are kidnapped, we're reintroduced to Swiper, who Dora doesn't seem to recognize, despite the fact that he was a prominent figure in her imagination at the beginning. Also, he can talk, and nobody seems to be surprised that he's a fox that can talk. I don't know, it's just weird. Overall, this movie can get really stupid and has some awful toilet humor, but it's meant for really young kids, and I think this is a really good introduction to the realm of Indiana Jones-style adventure movies for them, and even for me watching it, I really did feel the fun and adventure emanating from it. I really love adventure movies like this and wish there were more in the genre, so yeah, Dora was pretty okay. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Cows, out!